communicate inside an organization, and how do you convey information inside an organization, seems to be a very important part of the role that you perform. And then not just communicate information, but to make information available in form and to analyze information in a manner that helps the actual decision-making process go further and to make it based on more solid footing than it would be in the absence of that information. Now, of course, there is a management information system idea. Somebody, a CEO, somebody at the top, needs to know what the company is doing, needs to know what's happening on the shop floor, needs to know what the productivity figures are, needs to know what the cash flow is, etc., etc. And those are things that are well understood. But I think what you obviously do, as I understand, is to take all this a lot deeper and make it far more analytical. And in that sense, you are two ends of information and using information. Both are some things that you contribute to, and you're able to do this because you belong to that part of elite modern structures, which we identify as the information technology revolution people. So revolutionaries of modern times, the 20th, 21st century, are people who have information technology at their fingertips. And that's obviously the major contribution that you're making. But as we were discussing the idea when I first came, this is like other parts of corporate India, something that has remained confined inside the four walls of corporate India, in the boardroom, presumably in the head offices, in the offices that form the part of corporate structure, but something relatively unknown outside. Even corporate culture itself, as I was telling some of our friends here just now, is seen as a great disadvantage and a disqualification when it comes to public life in our country. People often dub you as computer wala or a corporate. Just as somebody used to dub people as slipper wala or a thele wala or kurta wala, etc. in the past. They now dub you as a corporate wala. And of course it's true that some people are making this very brave and dangerous jump from corporate life to public life, to political life. I do feel that more and more people should do that. Some of my young colleagues have done that. They've worked in corporate sector for a few years. Many of them have actually worked in information technology sector and would perhaps have shared experiences and shared some job attributes with many of you here. You may have actually known them over the years when they've gone their way up the corporate ladder. But when they leave that and come here, just as when people leave the armed forces and come into politics, there is a sense that they will bring value addition to politics, that they will bring another way of life. And meanwhile, politicians are straining at the leash to ensure that these people forget and obliterate whatever knowledge they have had of another sector when they come into public life. They are virtually shamed into completely forgetting whatever they've learned in their previous life as corporates when they come into public life. And I think it's a very sad thing, because there is now an inevitable global village emerging. There is now a new global culture emerging, and we cannot, as in WTO, we couldn't, much as there were pressures to do so, just as in the international climate change regime, or for that matter in the nuclear non-proliferation regime. We may have local compulsions, ideological positions, and some political preferences that cause us to resist certain aspects and dimensions of those global regimes, particularly where we find them to be tilted towards a handful few in the world. Yet the broader spectrum and the larger idea is something that we've had to accept, sometimes willingly, sometimes a little bit unwillingly. Sometimes we've even helped modify those structures, as indeed I hope we will do when convergence takes place on IFRS standards in 2011. We have stood our ground and said we want to harmonize, but it will be done by way of convergence, as our standards will converge with IFRS standards, but they will not be a total blind adoption of something that has already been pre-planned and presented to the world. And I think there India, in a sense, is unique when it stands up and claims that it has a strong ideological position based in the beliefs that have been inherited by us from our precursors and from the founding fathers of our nation. And therefore, we stand very firmly on that ground, and there are certain positions we are not willing and not prepared to change unless the world accommodates our vision to the extent that we expect the world to do so. But, as I said, there is some element, a base level if you like, which we all have to accept, the whole world has to accept, because there is a global culture emerging. You cannot today, even China today, can't stay behind the bamboo curtain, just as USSR couldn't stay behind the Iron Curtain indefinitely. Now, of course, things have changed so radically in the former USSR that the curtains have disappeared entirely. So coming back then to development of a culture and addressing more directly the theme that you will be today looking at. Unfortunately, some of the names that I've heard are outstanding, and I'm sure that you will have a very, very rewarding evening. I won't be here for most of it, but I do believe that we are all going to be talking inevitably about nuts and bolts where we need to grease a part, or we need to remove rust from a part, or we need to redesign a part, or do a better fitting of a part. But whatever we do with these different parts that we are accustomed to work with, we need to be able to explain to the rest of the world, certainly to the rest of the country, what exactly we are doing when we do these things. As someone mentioned earlier in the evening, the e-Chopal is one such, I believe, utility which corporate India and IT India has offered to those who are at the extreme other end of the way we work in this country, i.e. in the rural part of India, in the agricultural part of India. But there is an attempt to bridge that gap, both as a utility and as an opportunity for people who will take some time before they become truly part of the IT revolution. But the application of IT revolution, the utility of IT revolution, they need not be deprived of. And certainly the nation shouldn't be deprived of this linkage, and that's why the e-Chopal idea has been extended to India's producers, the largest producers in India being the agricultural producers. Unfortunately, although they are 65 to 70 or perhaps more percentage of Indian population, their contribution to Indian GDP is only 18%. And obviously, this linkage is desperately needed. But this linkage is the instrumentality by which they will be able to get value addition. But there is also an ideology or intellectual linkage that has to be provided. And that's why I have been